Alright, for this podcast we're going to go over slope of a line. Alright, so just first off, very basically, what is slope? All lines have a slope, and slope is basically how steep it is. That's like one way to think about it. Okay, if you think about going skiing, those are all different slopes. The better you are, the steeper the mountain you go on. That's kind of the slope, how steep. Some lines are very steep, some are flatter, some are very flat. But slope is represented by the letter M. Okay, not S for slope, but M. Okay, it's going to be a very important abbreviation to remember. So slope is represented by the letter M. It's also called the rate of change. Okay, because if you think about it, the slope is also how the line is changing, because the line is moving forever. Okay, so the ways to describe the slope, like I said here, we can look at down here. Alright, so here's 4 pictures of the 4 different types of slope. Alright, so we're going to identify the slopes of the following lines as either positive, negative, 0, or undefined, and identify the lines as ascending, descending, horizontal, vertical. Okay, so let's use these second lines first. Ascending means going up, descending means going down. Horizontal is left to right, vertical is up and down. Okay, so if you look at this, and the key thing to remember here is you want to read the line just like you read words, left to right. So if I put a little guy here, he has to go this way. So if I read the line like that, this line is going down. That is a descending line. Okay. Now this one is a vertical line. It's going perfectly straight up and down. Alright, now for this line, once again, if I put my little guy over here and I read it left to right, if he were to go this way, he'd be going uphill. That is ascending. Okay? And lastly, this line is perfectly going left to right. That is a horizontal line. Okay? So now let's kind of connect that to the types of slopes. Okay? So if this line was descending going down would make it a negative slope. Okay, so negative, you got to read it this way. Okay, now this slope, if it's a vertical line, think about it this way. If I draw my guy, can he even stand on this ground? No, he's just going to fall. He cannot stand. So because he can't even stand on the ground, a vertical line is an undefined slope. It has no value because you can't stand on it. Alright, now this guy, remember, he's going uphill, so the slope of this line is positive. Alright, and lastly, this one, if my guy were to stand here, and, he's walking on perfectly flat ground, so this slope is a slope of 0. The line is not going up or down. Alright, so those are the 4 types of slopes, and just using this is a really good way to make sure your slope of your line is the right sign, positive or negative, a quick eyeball check. Alright, so let's go ahead and get into how to find slope. Okay, we're going to practice finding slope a few different ways. The first way is finding the slope given a graph of a line. So here the line's already graphed. So if you want to find the slope here, you need to find 2 points. That's the key. You're taking 2 points and you are counting the rise and the run. Alright, so here's how we do that. So the formula M, remember M is your slope. So what slope equals, the formula is the rise over the run. Alright, so it's in the form of a fraction. Once again, the rise, you're counting how it's going up or down. The run, you're counting how it's moving left and right. Okay? I know this is confusing because in points, when we do points, we always list the x first, right? But now in the slope, the rise is on top. And a way to think about that, it rhymes. Rise comes from the y's. Alright, so that's where the y direction goes on top. Alright, so to do this, so here's how we would do this example. And you can technically start it a couple ways. There's more than one way to get the right answer. Alright, so basically, here's what you're going to do here. So here I have a point, or a line, and there's 3 points given. I can use any two. I need two, but I can use any two of the three, and I'm going to get the same answer because the line is straight. The slope is the same all across the line. Alright, so I'm just going to start here and here first. Okay? So if I do it this way, the rise, so just to show a point, like I'm going to do it two different ways. I'm going to start here first. So to get from this point to this point, I would need to go 1, 2, 3, because I got to do my up and down. I need to rise down. Because I went down 3, that's a negative 3. Alright, so just remember your directions come from the value. Positive or negative is opposite directions both ways. So I went down 3. Now I got to get over here. So I'm going to run 1, 2 over. That's a positive 2. And that would be the slope of the line. Okay? That's one way to do it. Let's use the same 2 points. I'm going to still use this point and this point, but now I'm going to start here. Watch what's going to happen. If I start here to get here, once again, I need to do my rise first, up or down. I'm going to rise up 1, 2, 3. So because I rose up, that's a positive 3. Right? This one was negative because we went down. Now we're going up. But now I'm going to run over here. I'm going to run over 1, 2. But you'll notice here I ran left. So going left is a negative. So you see, it doesn't matter which point you start at. Technically, this is the same answer. Okay? I know here this negative is on the 3. Here the negative is on the 2. Okay? But the way they would write the answer out, like on a test or on a book, they would technically write it like this. Negative 3 over 2. Alright? So the overall fraction is negative. When the overall fraction is negative, remember, fractions mean division. So if I'm dividing two numbers and the answer is negative, that means one of the two numbers is negative. See, here it was the 3, here was the 2. It doesn't matter, it makes it all negative. Okay? As a side note, just to kind of prove this, what if both numbers were negative? If it was negative 3 over negative 2? Well, a negative bottom of negative is a positive. So you see, if both numbers are negative, it makes it positive. And that's not what's happening. In this case, when one number is negative, it really doesn't matter which one. Okay? Alright, let me do this one more way. Let's say instead of choosing these two, let's pretend we chose this point and the point all the way down here. Okay? And watch, we'll get the same answer. So I'm going to start here, and I'm going to go to this point. So from here to here, I need to rise down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So in this case, my rise is a negative 6. I rose down 6. Then I'm going to run to the right this way, so that's positive 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? And then if I use my calculator to simplify the fraction, it'll come out to negative 3 over 2. Alright, so as you see, 3 ways we got the right answer. As long as you're getting 2 points and doing your rise and your run, then that's going to work there. Okay? Alright. So let's take a look here at these 4. Okay? Now once again, the key is you need to choose 2 good points. And by good points, we mean points that are like right on the corner or right on the intersection, right? Nothing in the middle. So you can choose any 2 points you want. Just for this one, I'm going to just choose these 2 intercepts. You could have done it closer, okay? But if I do it this way, so now, let's say if I go from here to here. So remember, the formula, once again, is rise over run. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to rise 1, 2, 3 up. That makes it positive. And then I'm going to run 1, 2, 3 over, which is positive. Always see if you can simplify your fraction, okay? So 3 over 3 would simplify to 1. Alright, so this line has a slope of positive 1. And if I use my quick eyeball check, if I read it left to right, it's going uphill. It should be positive. Okay? Alright, let's take a look at this one. Now this is going to be one where something a little bit unusual happens. Okay? So for this one, we'll choose 2 points. I'll just choose this one and this one. Those are 2 good points on the line. So let's get our rise first. So from here to here, I need to rise down 1, 2. That's a -2. Okay? Now, I went from here to here. I'm already on the point, so I don't have to run anywhere. I'm already there. So that means I'm moving 0 side to side. Alright, now this fraction, okay, if you do that in your calculator, -2 divided by 0, what's going to happen is your calculator is going to give you an error message. Not because you did anything wrong, but even the calculator cannot divide by 0. So, when the 0 is on the bottom of the fraction, that makes the slope undefined. Okay? So vertical lines are an undefined slope. No number value. Okay? Alright, let's take a look at this third one here. Alright, so now here, we'll just choose a couple good points. Alright, we're going to do our rise over run. So to get from here to here, I'm going to need to rise down 1. So that would be -1. And then I'm going to have to run 1, 2, 3 over. Can't simplify that. Let's just do a quick eyeball check. A -1/3. Is the slope negative? Is it going downhill left to right? Yes, it is. Okay? Alright, last example here. So this one. Let's just make a prediction. Do you think this will be positive or negative? Hopefully said positive, because if we put our little guy here, he's going to have to go uphill. Alright, so let's get 2 points. Alright, these two are good. See, right here is a little off. This one will be better. It's right on the intersection. So now our rise, to get from here to here, I got to rise up. 1, 2, 3, 4. Up is positive. Then I'm going to run 1 right. And then 4, you can leave it as 4 over 1. 4 divided by 1 is 4. So it's a slope of a +4 here. Okay? Alright. Next part. A different way to find slope without a picture. Okay? So now we're going to have to find the slope of a line when you're given 2 points. Okay? So just like we used 2 points on the picture, but now we're not going to have a picture. They're just going to give us the 2 points. Alright, so now once again, here's the slope. Okay? Formula in this case. Alright, once again, slope is rise over run. That's what you did on the picture, right? So slope can also be described as, think about the rise. When we moved the rise up or down, what we were doing was finding how much the y changed, the change in y. The run left to right is how much the x is changing, right? Because up and down is your y-axis, side to side is your x-axis. Or change in y, change is subtracting. So the real official formula that you're going to use now is y of the second point minus y of the first point over x of the second point minus x over the first point. Alright, so this is going to be the formula you're going to need to memorize and use when they give you 2 points. Okay? So let's take a look at some of these. So directions say find the slope of each line that passes through the given points. Okay? So here, I got these 2 points. Okay, so once again, it's just like on these pictures when you pick 2 points, right? But now we're doing it without a picture. y2 minus y1. Now here's technically how this is being labeled. Technically this is the first point. So this is the x of the first point. This is the x value of the second point. This is the y value of the first point. This is the y value of the second point. Point 1, point 2. Right? So now here's the thing. I'm subtracting both of these. And I'm just going to plug in my number. So the y2 is 9 minus the y1 is 5. Then I do my change in x's. The x2 is 3 minus the x1 is 1. So now we just clean this fraction up. The top is 9 minus 5 is 4. The bottom 3 minus 1 is 2. Always see if you can simplify that. If I do 4 divided by 2, I get 2. So the slope here is a +2. Alright? So it's just like that. Alright? Now what most people end up doing, just because it makes, it seems a little easier for them, and it's okay with doing this. Even though this is technically the first point, and even though this is the second point, Now remember, on the picture, we kind of proved that it doesn't matter which point you start at, right? So what most people will do is when they plug it in, they just put this one in first and this one in second, and that's okay. But just remember, this is your x, this is your y, this is your x, this is your y. Okay? So if I plug it in this way, it's okay. So this one will be 7 minus 3. That's my difference in my y's. Now here's a mistake people make. I'm going to subtract my x's. The first x is 4. I'm always subtracting, but what am I subtracting? A negative 3. Okay, remember, don't just say it's 4 minus 3. Don't say, oh, the negative's here, that's going to be there. No, I have to plug in a negative 3, so it's minus a negative. So if I do that, 7 minus 3 is 4. 4 minus negative 3, if I punch that in my calculator, I get 7. This cannot be simplified. The slope is 4 over 7, and it is okay to have a fraction as your slope. Okay? Alright, so let's do another one here. Alright, so this is my x, this is my y, x value, y value. So we'll just kind of keep it that way again. This y minus this y. So this first number I'm plugging in is negative 4, subtracting a positive 4. Let's subtract our x's now. 8 minus 10. Alright, so let's simplify this fraction. Negative 2 minus 4. Always use your calculator to be sure, but that's a negative 6. 8 minus 10 is a negative 2. And if I type that in my calculator, negative 6 divided by negative 2, I get a positive 3. Okay? Alright, so do this. Pause the podcast right now. Try these next 3. Alright, and then unpause it and check your answers here. Alright, so here are the answers for the final 3. Okay, so here, based on how you plugged it in, you should have gotten a negative 2 over 1, which you can leave it like that. It's simplified, or you can make it negative 2. It means the same thing. Now this one, something unusual happened. You should have gotten a negative 9 on the top, or a positive 9, but the bottom should be a 0. Remember, when the bottom is 0, that's undefined. Once again, if you put that in your calculator, it gives you an error. You cannot divide by 0. Now here, the 0 ended up on top. So here you should have 0 over negative 5 or 0 over 5, depending on how you plugged in. But if the 0 is on the top, 0 divided by anything is 0. Okay, so that's the thing to keep in mind. 0 on the bottom, undefined. 0 on the top is 0. Alright, so kind of keeping with the same theme, we just worked on finding slope of 2 points. So when they give you a table, okay, you're still finding the difference of the y values and the difference of the x. Okay, it's the same thing. So our slope, our m, is still the change in y over the change in x. Okay, so for example, if I look at this one, now just keep this in mind. This XY chart is listing points. Here there are 1, 2, 3, 4 points. It just doesn't look like a point, right? But it's like if they were in parentheses with a comma. So the first point is negative 2, 3. The second point is 0, 1. Second point is 1, 0. Second point is 4, negative 3. Okay? So I just have a chart right here. Okay? Once again, I only need how many points? 2. Whether it's a graph or what we just did, all you need is 2 points. So they gave me 4. I can pick any 2 that I want. Alright, so just to kind of demonstrate, I'll just try a couple different ways. What if I take the first 2 points? Alright, so remember the formula, the change in the y, it's the y minus the y, so y's are here. So just remember to plug it in the same way. I'm going to call this my first point and my second point. So I'm going to do this minus this. 3 minus 1. Now I'm going to do my change in x's. So I'm going to plug this one in first. Negative 2 minus 0. So if I do that, 3 minus 1 is 2. Negative 2 minus 0 is negative 2. Put that in your calculator. 2 divided by negative 2 is a negative 1 slope. Okay? Alright, let's try it a different way, just to show that it doesn't matter. Okay? So now I'm going to try the first point, and let's try the last point now. Okay? So, same deal. I'm going to subtract my y's, I'm going to subtract my x's. Let's plug it in. I'm going to plug this one in first, I'm going to plug this one in second. So my change in y is my rise will be 3 minus negative 3. 3 minus, and then plug in the negative after that. Let's do our x's. Negative 2 is the first x minus 4. Let's see what we get here. So 3 minus negative 3, punch that in carefully, you're going to get 6. And then the bottom, negative 2 minus 4, negative 6. Simplify that fraction. Always divide it and see if it's simplified. 6 divided by negative 6, negative 1. So as you can see, it doesn't matter which 2 you pick, it's going to be the same slope. Okay, so it all comes down to taking 2 points. Okay, so I want you to scroll down here. Try these 4. Alright, pause the podcast, take some time and do that, and then unpause it when you're ready to check your answers. Alright, good luck. Alright, so here are the answers. 11 has a slope of 2. 12 has a slope of positive 2 as well. 13 has a slope of 0. And 14 has an undefined slope. Okay, once again, 13 and 14 depends where the 0 is. Is it on the top or is it on the bottom? Alright. So for any of these problems you did on your own, if you got something wrong or have any questions, please check with me before you go on. Alright?